So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiance K. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H Now will be talking about Season 5, Episode 9 of Happily Ever After, as well as Season 2, Episode 11 of The Other Way. On Happily Ever After, Eric tries to apologize to Larissa, Colt gets some shoes thrown at him, Sinjin's brother tells us about his health scare, Angela starts making demands, Asuelu buys all the food from the food trucks, and no one will do what drunk Andrei asks. On The Other Way, Deavan and Jihoon check out their new temporary apartment, Brittany learns the first thing about Islam and then is asked to convert, Kenny proposes to Armando, and Tin comes clean to Melyza's dad. As always, we'll have our Students of the Week, class dances, and life lessons. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. If you also watch Love After Lockup, you can listen to our other podcast, Love After Lockup K, wherever you find podcasts. Next week, we'll be on a slightly altered schedule, but we'll still be here to cover both episodes. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing okay. This has been an interesting HEA week.
Yeah?
But then kind of a boring toe week.
Yeah. There was a lot. I feel like you're right. There was a lot that happened, and then not a lot that happened, and then weird stories in tow. Like, I feel like, especially in one of them, and we'll get to it, they really buried the lead with what happened in the in the story. But yeah, we'll just have to just get right into them then.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I'm going to start off with Tanya and Sinjin. So Sinjin is eager to see his brother Dylan, who has just been discharged from the hospital. They have a rough start as the car jerks forward, which scares Tanya, and Sinjin laughs. This upsets her, and she almost immediately starts crying because she feels like Sinjin isn't being very supportive, as her anxiety in cars is generally much higher after the accident. Sinjin offers his apologies, but continues to scare Tanya with his crazy driving. Dylan and Tanya compare injuries, and Dylan talks about the blood clot and rushing to the hospital. Sinjin gets emotional and cries, even though he says that South African men don't usually show their soft side. Speaking of soft, they also talk about Sinjin's love of pizza deals, which has helped facilitate his 15-pound weight gain. He continues to complain about America, which worries and frustrates Tanya, who admits that America isn't perfect, but it's also not awful. Tanya, Charmaine, and Cheris go shopping at Greenfield Market. So Charmaine is Sinjin's mom, and Cheris is his sister. Charmaine is happy to get some one-on-one time, and Charmaine asks if Sinjin is happy, and Tanya says that she worries about his commitment. Charmaine wonders if she's trying too hard to change him, and Cheris thinks that Tanya might be too controlling. Tanya cries as she says that she wants to have little Sinjins running around, and Charmaine basically tells her to relax because she believes if Tanya is too demanding, it will hurt their relationship. Okay, so Sinjin actually did a bit of complaining to America about America and his whole situation. What do you think is the root of Sinjin's unhappiness? Do you think it's Tanya, Connecticut, or the fact that it isn't South Africa?
It's a combination. I think it's primarily that it's not South Africa, right? And he had a lot of roots in South Africa. It seems to me like he had a really big social circle, a really involved social circle. He was very close to his family. He had a lot of friends. And in Connecticut specifically, he's missing that completely. And he seems like a very outgoing social person. So for him to not have any friends around is hard no matter where it is.
Wait, doesn't he have that friend that like drove out to his wedding that didn't live too far away from him? Was in Pennsylvania or New Jersey? It was like an hour or 2-hour drive or something.
Yeah, which is still a decent amount. Depending on, I guess South Africa probably has a little bit of a different, do you ever have that when you talk like to British people and they're like, oh no, that's like 50 miles away. I never go there. And you're like,
oh gosh, you're like, yeah, but that's like an hour's drive.
Yeah, right. Well, they wouldn't say 50 miles, they'd be like, oh, that's 70 kilometers away. I don't go there. But like, so he's missing, but maybe he has one guy that's 2 hours away. This isn't the same as him being like, I think he was always constantly with other people there. And then you add the weather. The weather drives him crazy.
God, I know, right?
like he is just used to it being hot all the time, like shorts and things, and he just is not into the
He's probably
cold.
super resentful of having to wear shoes.
Right. So it's like there's a huge number of factors that all add up to, it's not only is it not South Africa, but it's almost the least amount of South Africa it can be in the United States. Like I can think of like 3 other places that would be worse for him. Like the Upper Peninsula. Like
I find that really odd that he is so sad about being away from South Africa, considering how excited he was about being in America at the very beginning, right? So if we kind of think back on when he first got to New York, right? Because he flew into New York first, he was so excited. He seemed to be like, you know, not over South Africa, but kind of like, you know, it's nice to have a change and, you know, it's good to be here. I kind of feel like he is one of those people that the grass is always greener.
I mean, he literally said that
when
he was talking to his brother.
Oh, right. He's like, oh, well, the grass isn't always greener. And I feel like he is someone who thinks that, you know, well, maybe this other thing will be better. And I mean, I think that kind of mental attitude is the reason why he just kind of gets up and does stuff all the time. And he gets restless because it's like the moment he's unhappy about something, he just makes some kind of life change. And, you know, then he's hoping to improve his life situation and his happiness. So it's just like he keeps chasing that happiness.
No, I agree with that. He's definitely like the next thing. That's gonna be it. I'm missing just one. If I just do this, if we just move to New Orleans, okay, it'll be better. If we just get married, it'll be better. But thankfully, he hasn't done let's just have kids and it'll get better, because we always know how that turns out.
Well, it's actually interesting. I wonder a little bit if it's because his little sister is so much younger than him. Because I kind of find that with a couple of my friends who have had like really, really young siblings compared to them. It's like they remember what it's like for their sibling to be a baby. And so it's like you remember what it's like in terms of how hard it is to kind of take care of a baby and what kinds of life sacrifices you have, you know, if you see your parents go through it when you're at an age where you kind of understand what's going on.
And it also depends, I think it depends more on like how much of the responsibility they kind of put in your hands as a 14 or 15-year-old, right? Because I could say this, my sister-in-law, you know, she had babies about the same age that I did, right? 26 or something. She has a sister that's 14 years younger than her. And it's just like, and it didn't like change it, but I'm sure her parents didn't put a lot of it on her either. You know, it's like, it's one thing to see your parents do it. It's another thing to be like, oh no, I already kind of raised a baby and it sucked because I was 15 and I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. I had a friend who, his older sister, when he was 16, his older sister had a kid. And so she was still living at home. And so he was the one who had to drive his niece to like daycare and stuff like that. And, you know, so he definitely had to kind of make some life sacrifices because he couldn't just hang out with his friends after school. He had to, I have to go pick up the baby from daycare and like take her home. And, you know, his sister was trying to get through school. And so he had to help out. And so I think it kind of traumatized him.
I bet it did. Yeah, because that's the same sacrifices parents have to make. And you know how it is when you make, I feel like when you make teenagers make too many sacrifices, sometimes they overcorrect when they finally don't have to, you know, be under the house or be taking care of the kids. And I know that kind of scans with, you know, Tanya's issues with Sinjin's drinking, is that overcorrection of just being like, well, I'm totally free now. I'm going to bet a motorcycle or whatever it is he did. Yeah.
But bottom line, I am concerned about how unhappy Sinjin is. And I don't know, is he just one of those people who's always going to kind of be unhappy, looking for external things to make him happy?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like his family was worried because I'm with you. I don't think he was that happy in South Africa before he left.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it.
Is he just a person who's constantly unhappy and they're like, and his family's just going to check on him like, did that work? Did that work?
Right.
I don't know. Because he's definitely a person, because it's not something you would expect. He's a very lively person. Jovial person. He gives off the vibe of being happy. And I just think situationally, he has a tough time dealing with stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and we've already known he's kind of seen shit. Like, didn't he say he worked in the mines? I'm sure he's seen his friends die. I think he even said something about that.
He said something about that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like maybe he just needs to go to some therapy.
Maybe, I'm sure he does. And I don't know if that's a thing that just one of those South African men don't do that because they don't cry. And
I'm sure he doesn't. He seems like the kind of person who's like, oh, here's this healing crystal. That'll make me better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know how it seems like we know the show at least trying to paint how he's dealing with it is he's doing that bottle therapy. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on, I'm going to go to Paul and Karine because they weren't in it very long.
Yeah.
So we have one very short segment with Paul and Karine this week. It really doesn't do much to move the plot along. We start with Paul sticking his whole head into a plastic bag. Because that's how smart Paul is. And it only gets dumber from there. He's looking for the nail clippers for the baby and can't find them. Karine tells us that she's worried about Paul's ability to provide for the family because he still has no job and no real prospects.
God.
Paul tells us that he's been networking and connecting to get things squared away, and it doesn't feel like his efforts are being appreciated. Karine tells Paul that she doesn't like living in this place that's too close to the train tracks, which, causes vibrations in the house that Paul very animatedly demonstrates for us.
Yeah.
He also tells us that while the train is loud, at least it's not the shouting and gunshots that they hear in Brazil. At the end of the segment, Karine gives Paul an ultimatum. He has 2 months to find a job, or she is leaving and taking Pierre back to Brazil. All right, so let's start with them. We had the big thing with them last week. We talked a lot about what was going on present day with them. And just to kind of put that out there, I haven't heard any new developments.
Oh, I haven't
since
either.
Last week.
And I don't think we will. I'm sure they have both been legally advised to stay off social media in regards to the situation. So
right.
Hopefully Paul is actually paying attention to that, which it seems like he is for now. For now.
We'll never know when those kind of things pop up.
Right. And we hadn't heard from Karine, which is fair enough if she's trying to not make a big deal about where she is. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know if I really expect to hear from them anytime soon. I know he does have a court date coming up, right?
Yeah, it was about the restraining order.
Yes.
It wasn't sure. It was like one of those things. I know we kind of brought that in last week, so I feel like we have to keep, of when we talk about them to being like, just in case nothing new happened. Right.
So I think their court date is sometime next week. So maybe we'll have more information 2 weeks from now, possibly. Yeah. But I do want to say one thing. It's been 1 month, right? Mm-hmm. Why the hell do they still have that fucking pillow in the window? It's been a month. I thought that pillow was a temporary, we need something to, block the light for a night before we go get curtains.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing. Did they say they've been there for... Okay, I guess. Have they been in that place for a month?
Yes, they said it's been a month.
Oh, wow. Because, why is everything in a trash can then? Why is it a trash bag full of baby crap still?
Because they haven't had to use it until then. And that's actually funny that you should say that because I was going to say, this is the cleanest I think I've ever seen their place look.
That's true. That is true.
We are used to seeing their place look very cluttered.
Right. And they're right, because then they're right in that sweet spot where, the new house glow has worn off and the train is going by, but the train hasn't gone by enough where they're used to it. Because, people who have lived in a place where the train comes by and they've lived there for 10 years, they don't even notice it anymore. The whole house is shaking. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? They're like, oh yeah. It's 4:30.
The train.
Oh yeah, the train.
Right on time. That's about right.
So they haven't gotten conditioned to it yet.
Right. Oh, I don't know. I think that is difficult. I wouldn't want to live next to a train. It's one thing to hear it, but to have your whole house vibrate, I don't know how I feel about that.
The vibrating is the next thing over, because trains are weird. The place I used to live, it was weird because it was a 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the train tracks. Mm-hmm. And I was always curious about the physics of this because during the day you could never tell. But when a train came by at night, it was super loud. But only at night. If a train came by during the daytime, you wouldn't hear it. It was so weird.
Huh. So is it because there were other city noises?
Possibly. I mean, it was in the suburbs. It wasn't a huge different thing, but I swear the sound of a train carried more at night than it did during the day. Because I remember it did wake me up, and I was like, where the fuck is there a train?
I've lived in a couple places where I was really next to a busy road, or even one place I had was right next to a freeway. And it just becomes background noise. But I couldn't even imagine if my windows were even vibrating, that would definitely bother me.
I would say that the freeway is probably a little bit better because that's just like a constant noise. That's a white noise because it's not like it stops and then, 3 hours later it comes again. But I'm with you. The actual vibrating.
Yeah, not about that at all. Okay, so his networking and connecting.
What is he doing? I don't know what he's doing.
Networking and connecting to who?
Right. I generally you network through your job. Like what professional networks does Paul have that he's doing?
Well, yes, exactly. I don't even really remember what he was doing before. I thought that he worked for his family. And for some bizarre reason, I generally remember him being an engineer of some kind. No, that seems too smart for him. I take that back. I don't want to stamp my name on that claim, but
I mean, I could see him doing like working on a construction site or something.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Okay.
But I mean, it's one of those things, the kind of work he's looking for. He's not looking for huge skilled work. He's not looking for white collar work. He's kind of like, what networking? Like, you either
I don't know.
Get the job or you don't get a job. Like, you can ask the people, you ask around, hey, does anybody need any work? Hey, does anybody need any work? And if they need work, you start working.
The answer's yes. If it's not, then move on.
Yeah, it's not like, well, I'm building up this thing. It's like, I mean, does he mean he told his mom, hey, let me know if any jobs come by, I'll get to them?
I could kind of see him, asking someone, hey, do you know of any work? Oh, I might. I think I have a friend who's looking for something. And then like a week goes by and he reaches out. Did you talk to your friend? I forgot. Let me talk to my friend again. So I can see something like that where it's kind of this never ending, half-assed, like following leads, but they're not real leads to anything substantial, because if you notice, he never actually said he was applying to any jobs.
No, because last week he said every time a job he applies to, they just say, oh, you're a felon, so no.
Right.
But I totally believe that Paul has a bunch of connections that go, oh, yeah, I'll do something for that, and then never text them back. Yeah,
right.
I believe that.
I might have something.
I'll let you know. I
could see him doing an MLM. Like, Tom needs to target this guy.
Except he wouldn't do it well. I don't know. I could see him doing it. I can't see him making money doing it.
No, but okay. You do have a point there, because I feel like the people who actually make any kind of money have to put in some kind of effort. And I don't know, Paul just comes off as a really lazy person to me.
Right. I feel like if you can't finesse your network to get yourself a job, at least a part-time job, then how are you going to finesse your network to buy your MLM product? I don't see it happening.
That's true. Yep, that is very true. All right. So let's talk Kalani and Asuelu. So after the boys went to sleep, Asuelu apologized for throwing a fit over their canceled plans. Asuelu claims he didn't get any sleep because he got up in the middle of the night to poop, of course, and instead encountered a ghost shadow of a little girl standing in front of the bathroom. Kalani corroborates his story, as she was also afraid to use the bathroom because she heard a ghost girl's voice. They are bonded over this experience and resolved to have a better day despite their lack of sleep and fear. Kalani shows up to the house to help out, and she thinks that, this whole family situation is really awkward. So then they finally meet up with Asuelu's mom, his sisters Tammy and Rosa, and his nieces and nephews. His mom, Licini, practically makes out with Asuelu as she cries, and Kalani and Kalini kind of look on in awkward disbelief. When Kalani brings it up later, Asuelu gets defensive and mad and walks off. Kalani doesn't see what was wrong with what she said, so she's going to brush it off. Asuelu is excited because they don't have truck food anywhere but Portland, apparently, according to him. Asuelu orders the best of the best from several trucks, and they have enough to feed like 10 families. When they're sitting eating dinner, Tammy asks how much money Asuelu brought Mom, as Asuelu looks to Kalani for an answer. He then weakly says $100, and Kalani says, that's a lot. But Tammy and Rosa both say that amount is much too small. His mom says she needs to send money back to Samoa for the church and for family, so she's going to need more. Kalani defends their position by saying that Asuelu only works part-time and they just don't have extra. So Tammy rightfully challenges why Asuelu only works part-time. Asuelu then tries to blame Kalani, saying that she makes the decisions and he needs to take care of his family. Asuelu's mom thinks that this is all crazy talk because Kalani's family has money and they should be supporting them. So it will free up Asuelu's money for her. Tammy says the first priority should always be the parents. Kalani then asks if Tammy sends money home, and she says it's none of her business. And Kalani says, yeah, it kind of is. And Asuelu's mom jumps in to defend Tammy as Kalani looks away. Lucina tells us that when Asuelu was in Samoa, that he was her right-hand man because he always sent money. And now that he is with Kalani, she blames Kalani for the river drying up. Asuelu says he doesn't want to talk about money, which Lucina says, yeah, that's okay, but now she wants to leave. Asuelu says that Kalani has claimed that his family only calls them when they want money, and now Asuelu thinks, well, maybe this could be true. All right, so the question was asked of Tammy if she sends money home, but do you think that Tammy sends money home?
No.
And why is Asuelu held to a different standard?
Okay, so no, and because he's a man.
Yeah, but to me that also doesn't make sense because if you're the man, shouldn't you be the one who's providing for your family?
So they really seem to say, no, your family is your parents. Like,
okay,
if you can't even provide for your parents, you have no business having kids. Like, so
that's
it's
interesting.
So, you know, at least that's the vibe I was getting from them. And so it was like this irresponsible guy who can't even give his mom a decent life is going off and having kids that he also can't afford. This is ridiculous.
That seems a little unfair, and I also thought it was a bit ridiculous that they were like, oh, Kalani, your family has money. They can support you.
That was like, she was basically like, I want your wife's parents to give you money to give me so I can send it to Samoa. Like,
yeah, for the church. It's like, okay.
I
was really confused about what was going on here.
I was very confused. I mean, the only thing I liked about the mom was I liked her attitude of just being able to end the conversation, just be like, well, I want to go home now. I'm done.
Yeah. It was kind of funny that she was like, oh yeah, that's okay. But I'm gonna just like peace out.
Yeah, I'm out. No, I mean, obviously, and the tricky, because I think not the tricky part about it. I feel like this comes up often. This definitely comes up in the other way with Brittany and Yazan. Is one person saying, this is the way my culture is, but it's really their family that's like that. Yeah. And the culture isn't quite what they say it is. Especially because Kalani's dad is Samoan.
Right.
And he's not like, oh, of course he gets to give money. That's what you do. He's not like supportive of this just shipping all the money to mom so she can send it to the church in Samoa.
Yeah, that just seems really odd because it's like, I don't know, it just seems like the way Lucina has it all planned out, mapped out, it's like Kalani and Asuelu's family is completely screwed and everybody else seems to get like money sent up.
Yeah, like shouldn't she also be like, well, Kalani, you should be giving money to your family. No, people give money to me. I get money.
Right.
Like it was really weird. Can we talk about the food truck thing? Like, only have food trucks in Portland?
He was really weird. I mean,
they just went to California. Like, there was food trucks there.
There's a bunch of food trucks. But I think, like, I've been to the place that they've been to in Portland. I know it's not even really a truck. A lot of them are just, like, stalls, right? So, like, little food stalls almost. Some of them are trucks. But I think maybe he's saying that he hasn't seen them all kind of like concentrated in one area before. Right. Because, I mean, if food trucks are always on the go, he might like not really notice them.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like around here, their food trucks have like places where they regularly park. And I just got one around the corner from me that parked at my gas station that's just like, oh, there's a food truck here now. And they stay
but
there
is it
for,
just
like, years.
one or is it a bunch of them?
No, it's usually just one. But it's usually like a row of places. Like it'll be on one stretch of road. Like this gas station has one, the hotel next to it has one, the thing next to it has one, and there'll be like 4 or 5 on the same road. but not like the situation where they are at, where it's kind of like, oh, just walk around different food trucks and get your food and sit down and eat.
Yeah. There's a bunch of situations around here, and, Kalani's in Orange County, so I also live in Orange County, where, the fairgrounds does something where, one day a week they'll have a bunch of food trucks. And then I know of, a car dealership, they do that as well. There's a shopping center in the city over that does something as well. So, I mean, there's things, but you kind of almost have to intentionally go to them. Whereas in Portland, like I said, because these are kind of these permanent stalls, it's it's always going to be there. And definitely nothing that I've been to around here is as many as they have.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
I'm sure.
He was really funny. What is the best of the best?
That was to me like when people in movies or TV shows or ever go into a bar and give me a beer. I was like, the bartender's going to be like, what kind of beer? I don't understand what you're saying, right? Just give me the best. I mean, if I was running the food truck, I would take that to mean, oh, you mean the most expensive thing on the menu. That's what you get.
Or I don't know, I guess I would kind of think bestseller.
I guess so. If somebody just asked me to give them the best of the best and I worked at a food truck, I mean, because I wouldn't sell anything that I didn't think was good. Right. And so I would just give him the thing that's the highest margin for me.
With least amount of effort.
Yeah, I might put effort into it a little bit, but if I would be because the one guy who's like, oh, it's all grilled cheese.
He's like, give me the best of the best.
Yeah, give him the one that has the pate on it. Just split some of that. It's no more effort. Just give him that, charge him for, because he got so much food.
Oh my God, it was an insane amount of food. And he definitely walked off from Kalani because Kalani, I think she thought that he was going to get a few things. And she comes back and she's like, all right, so I didn't have to get any food. You clearly got food for everyone, plus more.
Right. And he didn't ask anybody what they wanted. It was so weird. He just came back and was like, food for all. I was like, what?
All right. So I actually was funny because when I type my notes for things, I type it as I go. So I had noted in my notes that Lassini and Asuelu had an interesting makeout sesh, right? Before Kalani calls it out. Right? Because I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? Right? And then I was like, okay, is someone going to say something? Because that was really weird. So Kalani actually says something, right? So, and then Asuelu was like, no, I wasn't making out with my mom. What did it look like to you?
I didn't notice it until Kalani said it. I was
Seriously?
just like, seriously. I mean, it just looked to me like it was, I didn't notice that the first kiss was on his lips, which it was. Yeah. I don't know if I was distracted or looking away because it was your notes, so I don't pay as close attention. But when I was paying attention, it was she was cheek to cheek, squeezing him really hard.
Yeah.
And so that's what I saw. Let me tell you the thing that bothered me maybe the most about his family. One of his sisters, not Tammy, the other one. Rosa, is deaf.
Yes.
That doesn't bother me at all.
No.
None of his family speaks sign language.
Oh, except for kind of Tammy, a little bit, and she didn't even sign half the time.
What? That really disturbs me about this family.
Yeah.
How do you have someone in your family I couldn't imagine having a deaf child and not making it a priority to be like, I must learn sign language. That's crazy to me.
And then why is Tammy the one who knows it and no one else?
Right. I mean, and doesn't even really know it. I don't know. That really bothered me about them. It really put me off. It kind of put me on the wrong side of that already.
It kind of makes me wonder a little bit if she had gone to any kind of deaf and hard of hearing school and learned to do something like read lips.
Yeah, I don't know how much she knows because she just made a little. All I saw her do was make a little. But when he said $100, she was like, "Yeah, not very much." But nope. She did know he said $100 because she said it was too small.
Oh, so maybe she does read lips, and so then that is less of a need for everyone else.
I don't know.
No, I don't want to stop there. It's a less of a need for everybody else if they're only concerned about having their voices heard.
Oh. Sure.
But I think it, like you said, it's a big problem because it doesn't mean that anyone gets to hear what Rosa has to say about anything. Mm-hmm. If they can't understand sign. So, yeah. So that's a problem. Agreed.
All right, so moving on to Angela and Michael. So Angela and Michael are on their way, well, somewhere, when they start having a conversation about Angela's smoking. Michael asks if she's going to smoke at their wedding, and Angela defensively yells about turning her into something that she's not. Angela's hair trigger is really armed already. But we find out where they're going, and it's on a boat ride, which is thankfully just them and not some other woman way in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
But they're on the boat, so they can talk about Angela's fertility issues and what they mean for their relationship. She notes all the adjustments she'll have to make to tote a baby, including she'd have to lose a lot of weight, she'd have to give up smoking while she was pregnant. Again, with the smoking, she really, really doesn't want to stop smoking.
No.
Michael tells her that having a child is extremely important to him, but he will stick by her even if she can't carry a baby. That's good news to her, but then he moves on to the bad news. He might be okay with it, but it's not at all clear that his mother or family will be, and he's very wary of getting married without their blessing. Angela really wants him to do what he wants and then let Mama and the family deal with it to get over it, and that they should consider his feelings sometimes. Next up is Angela's favorite part of the episode. It's time to taste cakes.
Yes, mine too.
Cake tasting.
Yes.
Right? Which apparently with delicious Nigerian icing, which now I have to go and taste this icing that they have in Nigeria that she raves over. So Angela and Michael meet Auntie Lydia and the sister Buki to taste the cakes and talk about the upcoming wedding, which is really just a series of breaking unfortunate news to Lydia and Buki. First of all, they will be having an American-style wedding with a wedding dress and a suit rather than a traditional Nigerian ceremony. And Angela is firmly insistent that that's the way it happens. Second, they're going to need money to have a big wedding, but which Lydia promises the family will contribute. And third, after the wedding, they will have sex, but there will likely be no babies from it. They have a small conversation about what society will think if there's no babies, coupled with versus Angela saying, but Michael is in love and marriage and who cares about babies? Nothing really gets all that heated, which is kind of unusual for Angela, but neither side shows any signs of backing down. So there's really no surprises here, but we don't have any huge Angela, trademark blow-ups. Mm-hmm. But I do feel, and kind of get your thinking on this, that it's the same pattern we kind of saw Angela doing earlier. She's secure enough in a relationship with Michael that she feels like she can push against the cultural Nigerian norms.
Yes.
But I feel like in this episode, she was much more respectful about it than she was when she made Michael dress up and cook food.
Yeah, I feel like she is strategic about things when it comes to his family. Yes. Like I feel like if his aunt wasn't there, that she definitely would have not been as respectful. But she is strategically respectful when people she thinks may interfere with their relationship are involved. Right.
I mean, not just may interfere, because she thinks the lady on the boat could interfere with the relationship.
Oh, God. Yeah, not like that.
Right?
Okay, influence.
Right, but it's people who she needs for the relationship to move forward. She needs these people to think positively of her.
Yes.
Right? And she is smart enough to realize that. A lot of the people on the show are not smart enough to realize this.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I guess that means she's just more manipulative or sneaky about things.
She is more sneaky about it. But I don't know. The one time I really liked Angela in this episode is when she said, I'm wearing my wedding dress. Michael's wearing the suit. And the aunt was like, well, it's a traditional thing. She was like, wait a second. We did the traditional engagement party. Mm-hmm. We're doing the wedding my way, and that's not up for negotiation. And she wasn't nasty about it, but she was firm and insistent and got her way. And I feel like that's kind of, if something is your hill to die on, that's kind of what I would like to see more of, and less of walking away and immediately letting up your cigarette and screaming at Michael.
Yeah. Angela says that she has made sacrifices, and then this always kind of wonder, what sacrifices has she really made that aren't like short-term sacrifices, right? So like things like, yes, I think that she would consider visiting him all these times sacrifices because that's financial sacrifice, right? She's having to spend money to keep on going to Nigeria. But like other than kind of the finances and the time, right? And kind of the same thing, time, money, she's taking vacation time to go. She's either loss of wages or, she could be spending that time with her family. It's like, other than that, what sacrifices does Angela keep on saying, that she's making for this relationship?
Well, I mean, in this case, she has a decent sacrifice with the time because it's time that she's not spending with her mother, who doesn't have very much time left, right? So that is legit. It is a short-term thing, but it's definitely a short-term thing. It's not like the money where it's like a short-term thing that you can get back. This is a short-term sacrifice that you don't get back, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think when she thinks sacrifices, she's primarily thinking of money because she's also supporting him because she doesn't want him to have a job, right?
Yes.
So she's giving him money too.
So this is a lot of financial sacrifice, which to me, that's more like, I would file this under money mismanagement. That's how I would file it under.
Right? Yeah, I mean, especially when your money management system is basically, I'm so jealous that I don't want my boyfriend to have a job, and so I will just spend money. Like, okay, well, what you're doing then isn't so much a sacrifice as much as spending money to get what you want.
Right. Yeah, I can, So once again, I'm going to file that under money mismanagement. Mm-hmm. Let me just talk about cake for a minute because I love anything that has to do with cake.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, Mr. O, the next time that we go to AP reading, that I'm going to call ahead and set up some cake tastings for us, and we're going to pose as a engaged couple just so I can try cake.
I'm down.
Yes! The whole idea of cake tasting is really amazing. I've only ever gone cake tasting once with a girlfriend that her fiance didn't go. And I was the maid of honor, so I got to go cake tasting once.
I don't know that even when I got married, I went cake tasting.
What?
No, we just got a sheet of cupcakes. So
did you have to taste them, or did someone make them?
No, we got them. Actually, we got them from Sam's Club. So I mean, we had them, but it was just we just bought a big thing of cupcakes and put them on a cake platter, and we're like, when I got married, we had a really, really chill, low key wedding.
I really just care about having a really great cake.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, anything else I just don't even care about.
The thing about cakes, and that's what always bothers me, is the best looking cakes are almost never the best tasting cakes.
Yeah.
Like, have the good looking cake that you cut and then have like a really awesome sheet cake in the back that they cut up and give to people.
I once had a dream that my wedding cake was a gigantic gummy bear. And I woke up and I was like, I'm okay with that idea.
But it wouldn't be an actual gummy bear. It'd be like the whole...
No, it was just like a gigantic gummy bear.
But it was actually it was gummy?
Yeah, it was like a gummy bear. Instead of a cake. It wasn't a cake, but
you know how they had that viral thing like from 3 weeks ago where everything was cake, right? Like the person like cut their arm and their arm was cake and like there was a whole thing on the internet.
Okay. No,
just a giant gummy bear.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of interesting ideas, let's move on to Larissa. So we pick up where we left off. Larissa is at Carmen's house, and there's a knock on the door, and Larissa kind of fears it's the police, but it ends up being the Amazon Prime delivery guy. So Larissa wished she could have stayed with Eric forever, but is disappointed he has behaved so poorly. She goes back to Eric's and has to knock because she can't find her key. Eric, for some reason, is brushing his teeth in the backyard and lets Larissa in the house. She asks to talk to him as she tells us she's tired of attracting toxic men who try to hold her immigration status over her head. Larissa says she doesn't want to talk to David, that's the roommate, and to never, ever threaten to call the cops on her again. They start rehashing the same argument again, and Eric says that she brought this on herself by trying to dig up things he had with his ex-girlfriends. What did she expect to find? Eric just shortly asks her what she wants to do, and Larissa says she wants answers, but Eric says, no, I want to know what you want to do with your living situation. Eric then softens ever so slightly as he says that maybe he said things out of anger, and then he says he's sorry. Larissa still demands to know what was said, and Eric says he can't remember and would have to see the screenshots. So Larissa tells him to get the screenshots and give her back the phone. Larissa doesn't accept his apology, which then prompts Eric to demand an apology from her. And Larissa thinks that's absurd considering how he talked to a virtual stranger about her vagina. She admits to us that she has not had a lot of sexual experience, so this has made her feel really bad about herself as a woman. Eric then gives an interview that kind of makes it sound like he thinks there's a chance for them. So how he left things, I was just kind of like, wait, what? Why are you talking like you guys are going to still get back together again? So do you think they're still going to get back together again?
I actually do, because all the things about Larissa that are Larissa, she is extremely insecure. Right?
Yes.
And she will pretty much take anybody that will have her. And you could see in Eric's thing, because our whole working theory with Eric, this whole season, is he just wants to be on the show.
Yes.
He just wants to be on TV. And he was asking about what's your living situation, and you could almost see the gears turning where he's like, wait, shit, if she moves out, I'm not going to be on the show anymore. Oh, I have to apologize and get her to stay. Like, so he's going to try to make up, blah, 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 and get her to stay, because if she stays, he's on the show, and if she leaves, he's not.
Okay, so that's an interesting thought, too. So you think his motivation for apologizing is to get on, or to stay on the show?
Yeah, he wants to make up with her and stay together, because as long as they're together, he gets to stay on the show.
So to me, I kind of thought that he apologized because he realized what an ass he's going to look during this edit. And so, like, the best thing he could really do in this situation is really just kind of apologize and kind of try to save face in some way to not look like the complete asshole. Because I was actually surprised that he apologized at all.
Yeah, it didn't, whatever it was, it seemed like it wasn't like an internal thing. He didn't really feel sorry. He was just like, oh shit. Like, he realized something in his head logically that something wasn't going to go his way. And he had to apologize to get it to go his way, because it was like a dime. He was like screaming at her. You're bringing up the dead, blah, 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 blah. I'm so
He at least let her talk a little bit more this time. And I mean, it looks like this was later on in the same day, I want to say.
Probably.
Because I don't think she stayed at Carmen's house.
No, she didn't. No, I agree.
Yeah.
She was over at Carmen's house. I think it was later the night of the same day. And it was weird because the phone he called about was in the house the whole time.
Yeah, it was like under her bed or something.
Yeah, she was like, you were going to call the cops for a phone that I didn't even have. Like, it was literally in your house.
Yeah, well, he's kind of blaming that on David. But kind of going back to Larissa being insecure, like, I do, and it makes me have a lot of empathy for her, because it's really obvious when she even kind of talks about what she was the most hurt about with Eric talking shit on her sexually, you know, and she's just saying, you know, that she feels insecure because she hasn't had a lot of sexual experiences. And so she's concerned about, you know, people talking about her, because no one wants to hear that they're bad in bed. No. And like, bad in bed is one thing, but especially like the things he made it sound like he was not just unsatisfied, but like disgusted and grossed out. And that's like, ooh, that's even worse. That's rough. Right. Yeah. And I just felt really bad for her, because if she already has insecurities about herself and her body, like, this is not going to help the situation. It's definitely going to scar her. And so I know you said you think they'll get back together again, but this is something that I don't know if Larissa is ever going to forget. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, I can see them getting back together again for maybe a short period of time, but this is just going to continue to haunt their relationship.
I mean, I really do feel a lot of empathy for her, because at the end of the day, I just don't know that she thinks she can do any better.
I know, which is terrible, because Eric is the trashiest trash of them all.
Yeah,
so it's
he
just
really
like,
is.
if you don't think that you can do better than Trash Man over here, like, I don't even understand what you're doing in life.
Okay, can we also talk about how psycho he is, the way he was brushing his teeth?
Okay, what the hell is he just... Okay, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that he didn't start off brushing his teeth in the backyard.
Okay, me too. But why, when she knocked on the door, did he come out of the back door?
Right. That's why I was like, why were you randomly in the backyard still brushing your teeth? Put the toothbrush down.
Why did he have an electric toothbrush that he was rushing back and forth like it's a regular toothbrush? That really bothered me. You're not supposed to scrub with an electric toothbrush. It does that by itself. You're supposed to move it. No, he was all out. That's an electric toothbrush, man. Like, does her dentist do that with the tooth cleaner? Why would you turn it? I don't know. Did he not charge it?
Because of
I was
the
so
audio.
confused.
The audio. Because I feel like we would have heard the toothbrush going, right?
Maybe. Then, again, why did you... Okay, oh, man, I got to turn off the electric toothbrush because I'm going to go outside and be on TV. But I want to make sure I keep brushing my teeth like, during this whole segment. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So confused.
He is a bizarre person. You know who does things like that? Sociopaths. They brush their teeth in the backyard with an electric toothbrush, even though it's not on.
But even though it's not on,
Yeah.
leaves off the electric. In the brushing my teeth in the backyard in the dark. I've brushed my teeth outside, but I was camping at the time, so that's different.
Oh, well, yeah. That makes more sense.
I know you don't like to camp, Miss H, so you wouldn't know anything about that.
Oh, but... I do. Wrong. I actually do like camping, but not like super hardcore camping. I like the camping where there is a toilet available. It doesn't need to be near me. Like, I don't mind hiking to the toilet, but it needs to be within reasonable walking distance. And I would kind of estimate reasonable walking distance within a quarter of a mile.
Okay. That's not bad. Yeah. So a regular campsite or a park or something.
Yeah.
All right. All right, this was the big one, is Libby and Andrei.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so as I said, this one's a pretty wild ride. And I'm not exactly sure what was going on or what really anyone was thinking here, but that's probably because when I watched it, I was sober. So anyway, we start off with the end from last week. Charlie and Andrei are ready to throw down as they get up but are held back from each other. They sit back down and Charlie tells us that he's American, so he says and does whatever the fuck he wants. Andrei's brother, Radu, asks in and asks why Charlie is so mad, and that maybe he should consider that it's probably the alcohol talking. But Chuck kind of shuts that down and says maybe it is the alcohol, but doesn't the alcohol really bring out things that are true? Chuck can't believe that Andrei's friends are all sticking up for him, because, and he seriously says this, no one in America would fight someone like that. Or, offer to threaten to beat someone up. At this point, even Libby calls Chuck on his bullshit, saying that Charlie is just a hothead, just like Andrei. Charlie continues to talk and say he would win the fight until the friends start chiming in on Charlie. Like, dude, we bailed you out of this fight. Why do you keep asking the same questions that almost started the fight over and over again? Chuck tells everyone that they're wrong. These questions that they're asking are deserving of answers, and he's never seen Andrei be so combative before, which gives him pause. Things circle around the drain for a while until Andrei repeatedly tells Chuck and Charlie to leave, and eventually tells them to pack their bags and go back to the States. Again, the shouting match continues, and eventually Libby and Andrei leave because Andrei is so mad. Chuck incredulously asks, "Oh, is that what you're going to do? You're going to leave us here with all your friends?" As if Andrei didn't actually ask them to leave multiple times. On the way out of the restaurant and to the car, Libby keeps telling Andrei how inappropriate he's being, which, surprise, surprise, does not calm him down. Andrei rants about everyone being manipulated by the Americans, and after his brother comes out to calm him down, and then everyone is really confused about what's happening and why it's happening. They finally go to leave. And then while they're waiting for an Uber, Andrei yells at and gets in Libby's face about never standing up to his family for him. It was a whole mess. So to start, I'm not defending Andrei's behavior at all. Okay? Mm-hmm. But I was really lost about why everybody else, specifically Libby and her family, was so confused about what Andrei wanted, because it seemed pretty clear what he wanted was for Chuck and Charlie to leave. And like, they're like, I don't know what you want. What do you think should happen? And he's like, I want them to leave. And they're like, I don't know what you want. And he's like, I want them to leave. Like, so I was very confused about that.
It's like, how much have these people been drinking? I want to say that they've been drinking a lot because it's just like.
Oh, it was all drunk talk. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, the entire argument didn't seem to progress at all from last week to me. No.
They kind of stopped where they are, and it was just a bunch of, why don't you shut the fuck up? Why don't you shut the fuck up? Why don't you fucking shut the fuck up? It was just like, it wasn't anything.
Right. And then I was confused how, like, things seemed to have escalated to a point where they were going to fight the last time, and where we're picked up this time. It's like all of a sudden they're all calm and seated again, but then still arguing and ramping back up. And it's just like, I don't understand what's happening here. And then the whole thing with Chuck kind of acting like, we've never seen this side of Andrei before. It's like, and even Libby, like, I've never seen him this angry. It's like, really? Because I feel like we have. I feel like we've seen Andrei aggressive and angry and yelling random things at the family, Like, this isn't new.
Right.
I think the part where he has someone so antagonistic like Charlie that they're gonna fight, that part is new.
Sure.
But I've seen Andrei, like, not speak so kindly and aggressively to the family before. So them pretending like they've never seen this side of Andrei, it's just like,
right.
All right.
And they're like, well, it makes me question what? I don't understand. I don't
yes,
know.
Exactly. Because that's the other thing. It's like, let's remember that these people have been married for 2 years.
Right.
What new thing are you learning?
Mm-hmm. I couldn't get, and I think everybody, all the Moldovan people were like equally as confused, and they're like, well, we just want to find out more about him. And they're like, why? They've been married for 3 years. What are you even talking about? So this is something that I noticed, and I don't know, you can kind of give me your opinion on this. I thought that Chuck specifically was giving off really strong Colt vibes. And
gosh.
He riles everybody up, gets them super angry, and is like, well, gee, I just don't know why you're so upset. I think I just wanted to talk about this thing calmly and passionately, and this is silly that you're so upset. Oh my goodness. I have questions now. I'm doubting what's going on. And I was like, it's Colt. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I can kind of see that now that you said that. I definitely feel like tag team, like him and Chuck, because Charlie, because at the end of the day, Charlie was the one who was really kind of revving people up. But then Chuck was playing dumb, like, I don't understand why everyone's so upset. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, we're just trying to get answers, like, but Charlie was definitely the instigator.
In America, the guests are honored people and they're treated with great respect. And it's like, well,
not really. Like, let's think about how he treats Andrei.
Yeah. I mean, I promise you, if an American came in and was like, if a Moldovan came to their American house and was like, what the hell is this bullshit? I don't like this house. This food sucks. What is this? What are you talking about? Did you guys ever get fired from your job? Like, that would not go over well at Chuck's house.
No, definitely not. But I kind of felt like I got the impression that Andrei's friends were kind of taking the guest side. And not because of what the guests were saying, like Chuck and Charlie, but more so just like, you need to control yourself because these people are guests and we need to be respectful to them.
Well, I mean, I think it was everybody. I think they were like, I don't know how much it had to do with guests. It's how much it had to do with, we can't control them because you're our friend. And as our friend, we just need you to chill out and make the situation better. Person that we have a relationship with. You do that. Because I can't tell these strangers what to do. I can tell you what to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of over their storyline, to be honest. It's like, it's the same played out storyline for the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
It's not even like episodes. It's like seasons. Now, the only difference is you have Andrei's family involved. Mm-hmm. And they're in a different country. But other than that, same old, same old.
Right. I kind of wanted... Yeah, I mean, because he makes a point and Libby doesn't stand up for him. Like, yeah, I wanted more of his family to be like, stand up for him. Like a little more.
Because it does always seem like it's Andrei, like, fighting everyone else.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that way towards the end on this episode, because I kind of felt like, not that his friends were really against him, but they also weren't backing him up.
Right. I mean, the one friend that had gone to Ireland with him,
yes,
did say, why do you guys keep asking the same questions over and over again? Like, I don't understand what you're trying to get with this. Like, he's already established he's not going to answer the questions. What is your point? And that was like just that. And that's the only kind of pushback we got.
Right. Okay. So last up we have for this HEA is Colt. Colt says he is surprised that Jess got so upset over finding out Vanessa is cat sitting, but he thinks the best course of action is to let Jess cool off and give her space. Jess thinks that Colt is choosing to stay with his mom rather than try to resolve things with her. Jess thinks that Colt is not acting like a man. Debbie claims that she just simply didn't know that Jess would have a problem with Vanessa. Colt says that he's tired of walking on eggshells and feeling paranoid, and Debbie thinks that Colt should see this as a warning sign that things are not good. Debbie repeats that if there is no trust, there is no relationship. Debbie is trying hard to compare Jess to Larissa, and Colt is starting to see the similarity, and he says he doesn't know what to do. Debbie fears that Jess will attack Colt in the middle of the night, so she invites him to stay in her room. Colt is starting to see that Debbie's just trying to intervene, and he reluctantly takes responsibility for hiding Vanessa from Jess and resolves to try and find her to talk. Colt goes back to their room to fix things with Jess. Jess is just outside the hotel crying because Colt really lied to her, sending fake screenshots saying that he loved Jess and can't talk with Vanessa anymore. Jess texts Vanessa and asks her if it's true that they're still talking, and Vanessa says yes. So Jess, in a rage, goes back to the room where she finds Colt and hurls her heels at Colt one by one. She shoves her phone in Colt's face and yells at him that he lied, look at this. He tries to follow her and she shoves him. She tries to get in the elevator and he follows her, and she gets out, goes back to the room, and tells him that she's going to her ex's house to sleep with him, I don't really know, and good luck. Colt continues to follow her and begs her to give him 5 minutes to explain. So then they're awkwardly stuck in the elevator, and Colt doesn't actually take that opportunity to explain anything. He just keeps saying, Jess, Jess, over and over again, as she struggles with her luggage, and he does nothing to help her. Jess says she's going to go fuck another man because he's trash. Colt says that he's not trash, and she says, yeah, you're worse than trash. He says, why is she so mad? Jess thinks that because Colt lied to her about Vanessa, that he also lied about loving her. Colt then turns it on Jess, saying that she was violent and trying to hurt me. All right, so do you think that Jess overreacted in this situation?
Probably. But. Okay, so the thing is that Colt wanted to have a fight that he should have had a long time ago, right? Mm-hmm. He's totally in the right. I'm allowed to have friends.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And if my friend is a woman now.
Okay. Let's back up there. Is he allowed to have friends that he has slept with recently? Because I think that's what the issue is. It's
does Jess know
necessarily. That? Jess doesn't know, maybe. But let's just assume for argument's sake that she did know. Because you're right. Jess doesn't know that they slept together. So in Jess's mind, it's more so that she has a problem with him having any girlfriend. Right? But I think the bigger issue is that he slept with this friend recently.
Right. I mean, yeah, I guess that's different. If it was somebody, and yeah, let's be fair. To be a little bit more fair to Jess, knowing what we know about Colt, he's not going to be friends with anybody he's not trying to have sex with. Like, that's just what he does, right? So, like, that's, if you know someone enough that you can be like, oh no, they're legit, just their friend, that's fine. I know they're not trying to get with them. Because, I don't know if you know this, like, Colt and Vanessa are dating now. Like,
yeah.
So, it's clearly not like some innocent thing that neither person was, they were into each other.
Yes,
right?
Sure.
But, yes, the overreaction came... Yeah, when she came back and threw his shoes, she came back and threw the camera in his face and, like, attacked. Yeah. That's obviously an overreaction. Leave, get out of there. You could be done. You can break up with him. That's all good. But like the violent reaction that she came back with, that was my part of the overreaction.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel bad for her in this situation because I feel like this scenario is very classic in a lot of ways. This is the situation where men are just like, women are so crazy. Like they just do these crazy things. Like even Colt is calling Jess crazy, right? You're crazy. Why are you throwing shoes at me? Like you're just crazy. But it's like men ignore all the shit that they do to get a person to this point in the first place. And so just because of that, I want to say that, yeah, Jess could have handled it a lot better. But it's like, I don't want to call her crazy for that. Because it's like, asshole Colt over here. Yeah.
I understand why she's as angry as she was.
Yes.
Right? She, like a lot of people, a lot of men included, needed to be a little bit more productive with her anger. Right? But,
sure. Yeah.
And that's why I say overreaction, because I totally get where the anger came from.
Oh,
and it's
yeah,
all
absolutely.
the little things that Colt did. Like, well, I didn't know she would be that upset about it. Bullshit. Yes, you did. That's why you kept it a secret. You knew exactly how upset she'd be about it. Right? And then to come by and just be like, oh, yeah, I lied about that because just to be like, oh, no, well, you knew this and I'm allowed to have friends, as if that was the issue. He tries to bring up a different issue and then just like, I don't know. And she didn't seem to know what she wanted either. But like when she physically pushes you away and then you follow her, that's
onto
creepy.
the elevator in an enclosed space. Nah.
Yeah.
She's trying to get away from you. And it was really funny when she shoved him. It was like, I don't even think she like really put her whole body into it. But he was just like...
No, he's taking a dive.
Like,
he's flopping. Yeah. Although I could... The picture of like the face and the fear that Colt had when she just like shoved the phone in his face and he was just like... That made me laugh.
So Colt says that he trusts Jess... But it's like, do ya? Because he didn't trust her to behave a certain way or accept Vanessa as a friend.
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, to the point where he had fake screenshots. Maybe not fake screenshots. I actually assumed that, well, I guess there's a bunch of different ways to do that. You can physically make fake screenshots. You can text somebody else and then change the contact name to Vanessa. Or you can say, hey, Vanessa... Jess is giving me a hard time.
Let's have this conversation.
We're going to have this conversation. Bop, 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 bop. Just take a screenshot of that and then say thanks when you're done. Like,
right. Yeah. Because I feel like Vanessa's in on the fact that their communication is supposed to be secret.
Yes.
You know? Like, at least from Jess.
Yeah. I did appreciate how Colt, I thought it was funny how Debbie just took it one step too far. And then Colt was like, oh shit, she's sabotaging the relationship. Oh,
right.
Okay.
If she had just like held it back a little bit, Colt may have been oblivious.
But as soon as she was like, I'm afraid she's going to come back in the dead of night and attack you with a hammer. And he was like, wait a second. No,
wait a second. That's not happening. All right, Debbie. I kind of feel like the common denominator here is Colt, in that it's kind of funny how women get violent around this asshole.
Right. And he does, like we said, that's what's most infuriating about him, is he keeps that calm demeanor while doing just the most heinous shit. But and trying to keep the moral high ground, being like, oh, gee, I just didn't know she would be this upset. And she seems kind of crazy, and I don't know what I could have possibly done to deserve this. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but I mean, yes. Well, I don't know what he could have done to diffuse the situation, but at the same time, he created the situation, so...
Oh, yeah, that was definitely I was on board with, you need to let her go. This is a conversation you need to have after emotions have simmered down.
Yeah.
Like, this is not... this was just clearly a fight that nobody should have had tonight. Like, that was a definite, I'm going to go sleep somewhere else. We're not going to talk. I'm going to temporarily I'm going to mute you on my phone, right?
Well, it sounds like this, I mean, they only have one more day left in Brazil, right? Because Colt and Debbie are supposed to be leaving the next day.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Sounds like this fight is going to continue on the next episode, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the part where she kind of loses me. When you double back That's where you lose me.
I'm going to say it's because she's young, right? And
Yes.
you kind of, like, when you're young, I think you really are a little bit more immature when it comes to fighting. It's more so about getting the last word in than
Sure.
it so much as it being productive and thinking big picture. So.
Right. I mean, and there's a reason that they're young. Like, we talked about the two people we know Colt has been with is Larissa, who admits she's rather inexperienced, right?
Yeah.
You'd assume she says sexually, which I would assume also would translate to in relationships. And
Yes.
this young girl, because you wouldn't fall for Colt's crap. Like, you'd see right through that.
Oh, God. I would not. And nor would I tolerate it.
Yeah. I mean,
hell no.
I mean, anybody who's got any kind of experience is going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I've seen this before. We're cutting
Yeah.
that. You wouldn't get past, like, date 2. Like,
Right.
what happened?
Well, yeah. I think for me, like, if this was someone that I had no knowledge of before. Okay. And let's pretend that Colt was a much more attractive person physically.
Well, let's just say you got set up and you blind date situation. You didn't actually see what he looked like beforehand.
Okay. Sure. And so I go out with him. As soon as he starts talking about that he lives with his mom and has cats, already right there I'd be like, high alert. What else is wrong with you?
I'm making the check sign.
I'm not going to assume that there's something wrong with you just based on those two things, but I am definitely on high alert, right?
And then the next thing he's going to bring up is his crazy ex that got arrested.
Oh.
Things. Oh, yeah.
If you brought up crazy ex, like, on the first date, like, oof. You know what was really funny? I actually went out with this guy one time, and he just gave off some, like, kind of weird vibe. And I don't know if, like, people actually have intuition on those kinds of things, because he had never said anything that would lead me to believe this, right? But I was just getting some weird vibe from him. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And then I was kind of saying, I was like, I just don't think this is going to work out. And he's like, why? And I said, I don't know how to explain it, but I just don't feel really safe. And, like, I was being honest because that's how I really felt, but I didn't know why I didn't feel safe, right? And then he tells me some crazy story. Like, he's the one telling me. He offered up a story about how, like, the police were called on him because he was blocking the door of this girl that was trying to break up with him or something like that. And so I'm assuming it was, like, a domestic violence incident, but it was just like, okay, huge red flags, stepping away.
Right? I've been on a similar date where it was with somebody, and it's like they just casually bring up that time the police were called on them, and I was like, that's
not a good sign.
Yeah, that's interesting, because they always are like, oh, it was ridiculous. They called the police. I can't believe the police was there. I got arrested, but they're like, wait, hold on.
Go back to the part you're arrested again.
Yeah. Like, I almost got arrested. I was real close to getting arrested. It's like, oh, so it wasn't so crazy they called the police then, huh? Because they almost arrested you for it.
Yeah. So if Colt were to bring up any kind of, like, even if he wasn't the one that got arrested, I called the police on my ex, like, that's a toxic situation. And even though you may not be the instigator, that definitely raises some pretty red flags.
Right. Yeah. It does. Not to say it's wrong in every situation. Obviously, if people are actually being abused, you need to call the police on your abuser.
You don't want to victim shame. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. But to me, if anything, like, that would give me pause, right? So I need I need
more
story.
Of the story. Yeah. But if their whole story is, well, she was a crazy bitch, she was crazy, and I don't know what was wrong, then it's like, okay, you don't really have a full story now. Like,
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that was HEA. There was definitely a lot going on with them.
I know. All right.
Contrary to our toe.
Yeah, I know. So this is the one I hinted at earlier, where it's like, I feel like there was nothing, and then they cut it off at the wrong time. So this is Deavan and Jihoon. Okay. So we do start with a random cat interlude.
Yes! Cats.
There's a random calico in a storm drain before we see Deavan and Jihoon packing up a car. While they're packing, Drusilla finds a new best friend, which is a centipede that she found on the ground.
God.
After they get in the car, we learn that they're going to the new apartment that's supposed to be better than the shoebox they were going to live in at first. Alicia, Devan's mom, is going to meet them at the apartment and ride with Devan's parents, which is awkward because her Korean and their English are both basically non-existent.
Yeah.
Eventually they make it, and everyone agrees that the neighborhood and the apartment are way better than the other place. Alicia says she is selfishly of two minds because this is a much better apartment, better for her child and grandchildren, but it also makes it much more likely that Devan's going to stay in Korea. Then Jihoon tells us that this place is only a 1-month rental, which I think we kind of knew, and he has to find a new place, which, I don't know, kind of shades this whole thing to me. In the next scene, we see the whole family at the playground, which was one of Alicia's primary concerns, that the kids would have a place to play. The translator app seems to be fixed now, and Alicia and Jihoon's mom get into a little tug of war through the translator app over what each person in the couple should be doing. But Deavan eventually breaks in and says what she needs is for all the grandparents to just back off so that her and Jihoon can be the adults, which Jihoon's parents are totally okay with. Then they kind of come to an understanding, and when everyone is leaving, Jihoon puts down Drusilla, who just starts running down the sidewalk, and the episode ends with all the adults chasing her in the dark. So, this was really boring up to like the last 5 seconds. Like, I don't know why they decided to cut it off with everyone just kind of breaking off and chasing Drusilla. But if you were either Deavan or Alicia, would you be okay or feel good about this 1-month temporary fix? Like, I don't know, they seemed really excited about this apartment, and I was like, but it's just, they're only there for a month. Are you really okay with this apartment?
I would be skeptical, because it's like, how did they even get this apartment? I feel like, did they use the money that Jihoon had to pay for this apartment?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Is that what happened? Because didn't she get the $3,000 from him?
Yeah, it was $3,000. So that would probably be about right? I mean, for a 1-month short-term rental in a good part of the city, that doesn't seem unreasonable.
Yeah, but then I would want to know, like, how long does it take for you to save up that $3,000, right? Because that's all you have. So that would be kind of scary, and I would definitely be skeptical about the stability of that situation.
Right, because then you're expecting him to come up with a job that makes $3,000 a month.
$3,000 a month, yeah, that's definitely.
Wow, yeah.
I kind of wonder a little bit, like, what Devan's capacity is or ability to work in the country is.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what she would do, but like, what's the green card situation or whatever the equivalent is there, right? Mm-hmm. So like for here, you have to wait till you get your green card before you can actually work and make money. But what are the rules in South Korea? Can she start working now? I mean, like I said, I don't know what she would do because it's like you have to have some concept of the language, right?
Yeah, and I'm also curious a little bit as to what they do for like maternity and paternity and parental pay and leave and stuff, because like I have a cousin that lives in Germany, and they get like from the government. It's not from the company, right? It's government pay, right? She has 3 kids because every time she has a kid, they give her a year off.
Oh, interesting.
Like a year off paid, and it's like crazy. So I don't know. She has an infant that would be like in the range of you would get maternity for this kid because the kid is Korean, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't know how that goes with what money they get from the government to support the young child, because most developed countries are not like America, and there actually is government money available to everyone who has a kid, and not just like anti-poverty programs like we have here.
Right. I mean, we pretend that they're so poor, but like the reality is that they're making a decent amount of money just doing this show.
Yeah.
Right. And so to say that they only have $3,000, I think is like, well, maybe at this specific point in time, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have some money coming in once this starts airing and things like that.
I mean, the show is nice, and the show gives people some money, especially when you're talking about being super, super poor. We literally have zero in the bank, but I don't think they earn enough maybe the second time, but they generally don't earn enough to make a living just on the show. Like, you have to have a day job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. But I think they probably have enough for rent for at least, like, most of the year.
Yeah.
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 All right. Yeah. Oh, you said the translator magically started working.
Because they were having the fight, and they're like, no, you can only talk like 3 seconds into the translator. And then.
Yes. Alicia was like, a whole essay. I was just like, okay, okay, Alicia, that translator isn't going to be able to handle that. Well, I guess it can.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
I know. I thought that was weird. I was like, yeah, I was like ready for it, especially how hilarious it was the first time. I was like, I'm ready for this translator app to mess it up. Especially because it kind of seemed like it would, because, you know, how they like say it in their native language, and then we also get to hear it as like the translator says it back. So it's like, what's the point in that? Why don't you just like cut out the parts of the translator if it's not going to mess things up and make things more entertaining for us?
Right. I know. Yeah, because we heard her say it, and it read the same thing. Although it did seem that the translator app tended to mess up Korean to English more than it messed up English to Korean.
Agreed. Yeah. Okay, let's talk Kenny and Armando. So Cassidy and Taylor, Kenny's daughters, have flown to Mexico to help Kenny with his proposal to Armando. Kenny tells Armando he's going to the bank, but he's really meeting his daughters at a spot near the beach to plan everything out. It's important for Kenny to have his daughters see the love he has for Armando. They question if it's too soon for proposals so soon after their move. Kenny says that this is the first time he has felt that he has wanted to actually marry someone, despite the fact that he's been in 2 other significant relationships. Kenny wants to propose to Armando before he goes to pick up Hannah, so Armando's family can see that he is engaged and that Kenny has serious intentions for Armando. Kenny told Armando that he is taking him to a nice dinner. Armando recognizes the place and says he loves it there. Armando is suspicious as they walk past the actual restaurant, and Kenny tells him that he wants to take some pictures by the rocks. They both stand on the rocks on the beach, where Kenny gives an emotional speech about their love being as wide as the ocean, as he gets down on one knee and offers Armando a ring and asks if he will marry him. Armando says, of course yes, and puts on the ring. They both say they want to spend the rest of their life together, as Kenny's daughters and a bunch of random people stand on the cliff overlooking and shoot poppers and cheer. Armando is excited to meet Kenny's daughters, and both Cassidy and Taylor greet Armando warmly and tell him that they love him. Armando feels love, support, and approval from Kenny's family, which means a lot to him given his family's reaction to his coming out. All right, so I don't know if you've thought about this. Maybe not, because, I mean, your divorce isn't that
right.
that long ago. Mm-hmm. But in a future proposal, would you involve your daughters?
There are a lot of moving parts in that. I wouldn't be against it. I actually, what I did, I really, really liked the way that he involved the daughters. Like, he had them there so we can see. But you know how I am with people adding extra pressure to proposals, right?
Oh, sure.
Right? So when did he see that the daughters were there? When did he see that everybody was watching?
After he said yes.
After he said yes, right?
Yes, true. Very true.
So I really did appreciate that because, yeah, my daughters are a huge part of my life. And if I was, when I go to get married, that would be a huge thing. But it depends on if they would want to be involved, right? It depends on the relationship I have with this theoretical woman that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different things going on. It depends on what has happening with their mom. Like, there's so many moving parts that it's really hard to say. Right. I would like to think I would like to, because yes, any relationship I have in the future is going to heavily involve them. Yeah,
I guess also for at least Kenny's situation, Cassidy and Taylor are like adults.
Right.
You know, they're not like, so this would be like if you were picturing your girls as like adults. It's like, yes, they're a major part of your life, but when they're adults, are they really going to be a major part of your daily life?
Right. Yeah, that's a good distinction. Yeah, obviously, yes, my daughters are always going to be a major part of my life, but not always a major part of my daily life.
Like they are now.
Like they are now. Right. And so, I like I said, I would hope so, because Like, because that's one thing, because we see it a lot of them. A lot of daughters on this show, on all these spin-offs and all these franchises, wouldn't want to be involved because they don't like that they're getting married, right? They don't like the person. They don't approve of it.
Great.
Yeah.
The two of them, they were so warm to Kenny. And it's just like, I don't know. It's like everyone in their families, they're such nice, great people, right? And even Armando's family, you can tell there's a lot of love there, but there's also a bit of like work, right? To get where they kind of need to be in forms of acceptance.
Right.
But you can still tell there's a lot of love there.
Yeah. There's just, Kenny's whole household's just so full of love. It's like, it's like definitely what people would strive for. The amount of love. I mean, and they did, I did appreciate they finally kind of hit that elephant in the room that he came out as a gay man in the 80s. And they talked about like the effect that HIV and AIDS had on him and like how hard that was for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually kind of funny because I just recently, probably right before I watched this, watched that new Howard documentary that came out on Disney Plus about Howard Ashman. I was like, Ash something. Yeah. And even when he was kind of talking about the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, kind of talking about how he had a lot of friends that, died of HIV AIDS as well. So it was kind of crazy to hear Kenny talk about that as well. And it was kind of sad, a lot of people that he, came out and shared the same experiences at the same time, and those kinds of things are things that really bond people, really help them relate. He probably feels really lucky that he made it out alive out of that time and, gets to have this happy life being openly gay and seeing how things have shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of like, and that's where he's coming from, is seeing like the darkest days, right? And coming to where he is now, into this place that's all full of such love. And he kind of is like, and he sees that Armando is in a darker place right now with the acceptance of things. And he's like, I know where this goes. It gets better. Please just come with me. I'll show you. I'll come and I'll show you how it can be better. I don't know. I just, it's like we said, we've always been saying, it's just a refreshing couple to have on the show.
Yes, it really is. Although the drama can be more entertaining sometimes. But I just don't need fabricated drama. Yes, it is nice to have a palate cleanser, and we don't need the fabricated drama.
All right, so speaking of fabricated drama, Brittany and Yazan.
Oh, gosh.
So after being in Jordan for a little over a week, Brittany puts on a hijab and meets Yazan to learn more about his culture. Specifically, they're going to mosque, which is tough for Brittany because, as we've seen before in other iterations of the show, at mosque, men and women are separated. So she spends time in the mosque, but she's not with Yazan. While she's there, she tells us a bit of her religious history. She was raised Catholic, but now considers herself, and this was no surprise at all, more of a spiritual person than a religious person. Once they get back to Brittany's place, Yazan takes time to introduce her to Islam by showing her how to wash and pray. Brittany is not crazy about all the face washing in particular because it's going to ruin her makeup and her lashes. But she goes along and says a prayer and says it's a little bit like meditation. He tells her that she can pray for anything, so she prays that his parents will like her again. He says that he's praying to marry her. Then we see another random cat, before they meet for dinner. At dinner, Yazan says that his uncle did talk with his parents as promised, but now the parents want to talk to Brittany again. Brittany is afraid that this is only going to be a shit show. Yazan says it will go fine if she really commits to wanting to be with him and converting to Islam. Brittany is still unsure about converting to Islam and wants to think about it, but Yazan says that she needs to make her final decision in 3 days. She does not appreciate the pressure, but he says he needs to know, so if she's not going to convert, he can move on with his life. He tells her that he cannot be married to anyone that is not Muslim, which seems like news to Brittany since she thought that converting was a preferred option and not a requirement. After he asks if she's been reading her Quran, she gets mad and leaves. Then she talks to a producer in some weird store about how mad she is that he put her in this position, and then later she comes back after she has cooled off. She explains that his 2 days and 1 lesson of Islam training is not an acceptable amount of time for her to make a decision. And then he expresses that he's under pressure from his family, but when she comes back, he says that he understands where she's coming from and that she can have all the time that he wants. She then makes him pinky promise to this, and he is really confused and clearly doesn't know what the pinky promise is.
No.
So this is what confuses me the most about Yazan. Why does he have this repeated pattern of making ultimatums and demands and then almost immediately backing off of them when she shows any amount of being upset by them?
I don't know. I think they're both like delusional, because as much as he does that, I feel like she shows him hope that she is willing to change, just to turn around and be like, well, I'm not going to change. It's like, okay, but you seemed open to it.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just both of them, I feel like, are doing enough to give each other a little bit of hope. But then, obviously doing something that kind of reminds them where they're actually really at,
Right.
And then they'll do something that gives them a little bit of hope, and then they're back where they're at. So I feel like they're both guilty of trying to make it work when really, come on, who thinks this is gonna work?
It's impossible.
This is a disaster in the making.
I'm curious as to where he's getting his advice for like how to deal with her, because I feel like there's somebody who's just out there telling him, listen, man, you just got to put your foot down and say you have 3 days to decide because you're the man, and you can just tell her you got 3 days to decide, and then she'll make her decision, and that'll be that. You'll either know or you won't know, instead of him saying, well, you have 3 days to decide, and she's like, well, that's bullshit. And he's like, I don't know how to deal with that. That was not one of the options I was told that could happen. Like, I was told you would say yes or no.
I kind of feel like that's coming from his parents. Like, his parents say, okay, so we're going to have the wedding in 3 days, right? Let me get back to you on that. And then he goes to her and he goes, so are you going to convert? And she was like, well, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. He's like, well, you have 3 days to decide, because in his mind, that's like the deadline for marriage, right? And so she's like, wait, what? I have 3 days to decide. So kind of not really, I don't know why this confuses her though. Like, why she thinks that her converting and them getting married are two separate events. Like, I could have told you from the beginning, and like, I'm not even in this relationship, that this is like synonymous.
This dude is not marrying a non-Muslim, right?
Yes. Her converting and getting married is the same thing. And I don't understand why she doesn't see that, I can get married to this guy and not convert. Like, why she even thinks that's an option.
We've seen other couples where it's a Muslim and a non-Muslim, and they get married, and like, but specifically for this guy, like, it is very obvious for this guy and this family. Like, I don't know how you can spend any amount of time with this guy and this family and think they'll have any kind of stomach for him marrying a non-Muslim. Like, that's insane to me. For her to be like, I didn't know I had to convert. Be like, were you paying attention? I don't think you were paying attention.
And also, like, theory about why his parents are super eager to get them married as soon as possible is because we kind of talked about this weird, I don't even know what to call it. Like, we called it kind of shotgun wedding, but it's not. But it's like they have a sense of urgency that they need to get married because he supposedly lost his virginity to Brittany. Right. And I think they're kind of thinking like, well, this can't happen in 6 months because now people are going to know that they're unmarried and he lost his virginity, and this is going to bring shame to our family. Right.
Like, what? Yeah. There's definitely that. And so he definitely has the family pressure, but I just feel like, especially it's probably from his dad, who's telling him, no, here's how you deal with women. You lay down the law, you tell them what's what, and they'll come along. And then he's not as forceful, and she's much more willful than anybody he's used to dealing with. And it just doesn't work.
I am so confused by why she wants this relationship to begin with. Okay, I'm sorry, but what he has to offer in terms of physically, she confines somewhere else, right?
I mean, everybody has a type, but I feel like there's even like 1,000 guys. Where is she from? She's from Florida?
Yes, I feel like they're pretty diverse, right? There's gotta be other guys that are like that in Florida. I don't understand why she has decided that this is my person. I'm going to pick the person that it's going to be a huge compromise for either one of us just to even get to a place where we're together. I don't understand why she's choosing this really difficult life when she doesn't want to have this really difficult life. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense to me. Find someone else.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. What is he bringing to the table? Because she doesn't seem to like Jordan very much. And she might, she might like Jordan better if she was with a less conservative person, right? And they could show her like the more interesting and fun parts of Jordan instead of like, no, just stay in your apartment all the time. And then we'll go to mosque. And mosque and apartment, that's Jordan. There we go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there are definitely super conservative people of all stripes, even in cities. And it was like, because it was like her sister was roommates with his sister or something.
Yeah.
But it strikes me that would be an odd roommate pairing, right? If a sister was like a super conservative.
They might have been neighbors, like in the same apartment building or something.
Sure.
But I don't know. It's odd to me.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it's odd that she would be.
Something doesn't add up.
This lost as to what, which is why I kind of led this in with manufactured drama. Like, how could she be this out of a loop with someone that she's been talking to? Like,
I'm going to put my little tinfoil hat and say that I feel like she's using him for being on the show. Mm-hmm. She really has no interest in being there. She really has no interest in really being with him long term. Does she, like him at the moment? Sure. Like he's good enough for her now. And I feel like his motivation is the whole like family shame over losing his virginity.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to make things right. Yeah.
Try to make things right. You got to make it right. That's what his dad seems to be. Put it on.
Right.
All right.
So there's my little tinfoil hat theory on that.
It's not crazy.
Okay.
I'm going to end it with our last couple, which is Tim and Melyza. So while folding some laundry, Tim tells Melyza that he wants to come clean to her father about his infidelity. He says that it has been a weight on him, and he thinks that the dad should find out directly from Tim. Melyza thinks that's going to be a difficult task, but agrees it's the right move and no longer keeping secrets. So then we cut right away to the very public bar where they plan on breaking the news. Tim starts out in Spanish, but doesn't know quite the right words to say when it gets to the most important part of the conversation. So Melyza has to translate, the meat and potatoes of it. After he hears, the dad stays calm, but expectedly has nothing but critical things to say. It starts out with, "Badly done, man." But then he says that he feels like his heart and his family have been toyed with, and that he will never again see Tim like another son, and that he thinks they should just break up. Tim tells him that it will never happen again, but he says that once the trust is broken, love can't survive. Melyza is disappointed that her dad might no longer approve and thinks they should break up, but she says she is an adult and the decision is ultimately hers. All right, so actually it was a decently short segment. That's all that happens. So all in all, how well do you think Dad handled the news?
I think he did pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't overreact. I felt like that was an appropriately calm, even more calm reaction.
Right.
I felt like his advice was fair advice. It wasn't like overly emotionally charged at all.
Right.
And I actually agree with the dad's advice as well, because as much as Melyza keeps on saying that she loves him enough to try work through it, it just doesn't look good for them right now. And I wonder if it's because of the show that they're kind of forced to talk about it constantly.
Right.
But it just doesn't seem so healthy to keep on hashing it out for the sake of hashing it out. They're not working towards anything.
Right. Like, you can't rebuild trust by just talking about how trust has been broken. Like that's there's nothing restorative that's going on here. Just rehashing this over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree.
Like both on his part and on her part. Like she brings it up a lot too. And I'm really kind of curious as to why she wants this to work if nobody else does. If that makes sense. You know, like her parents are definitely like, "Oh, you should break up. This is done. I don't like him around. I'm done with him. He's dead to me. Like, just break up with him." Right? I'm not sure what it is that makes her not only think this is going to work, but why does she think that this is what she wants? Because she makes that point at the end of the day. This is ultimately about what she wants. She has total control over this relationship right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? I don't know what she wants, to be honest. I mean, she is young, so, you know, if she's never had a relationship like this and she feels like this is really love, she has nothing to compare it to. I know it's really hard when it's kind of like your first love, right? Ever feeling that you could feel that or have that with someone else, right? So no matter how broken it is, kind of trying to somehow salvage that, right? And so it could just be like a you don't know any better situation. And I mean, I do think there is some element to every kind of relationship where it's a choice, right? So you're choosing to be in this relationship despite everything that's happened. But I think what the issue is that it needs to just kind of like be let go of, right? And I think that's the part is she wants to continue this relationship, kind of almost keep this memorial of what happened like around, like as an ever-bearing presence. And it's just, you're never going to have the same relationship if you keep doing that.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like she knows what she wants, but she doesn't know how to get it, which is super common when people are trying to get over something like this in a relationship, right? Because you do kind of have to let it go. You can't dwell on it. You can't do it because I do think that once upon a time, she was with Tim. She was like, I am truly happy right now. Like, and this is what I want for the rest of my life. And that's gone right now. But she's still like, but maybe I can get it back. Right. And you'll never get it back exactly the same. But I definitely am not one who thinks, oh, once there's any cheating, it's done. It's over. It can't be salvaged. Everything's bad. Right. But it definitely can't work if that becomes the new center of the relationship.
Yes, which it has.
Like, we don't know anything about them except, like, that's because watching the show, that's it. Their whole story revolves around him cheating. Like, the whole story of their relationship right now is he cheated on her. Like, that's the core of it. That's what everything is revolving around.
I would like a little comedic relief in their storyline. Right. We don't even get that.
I want to see her enjoy his presence. Like, you know?
I want to see more dog interludes. That's what I want to see.
Right. We don't have any dog interludes. Like, we don't have, she's stick. He's not doing anything goofy. You know?
Right.
We tell us what a goofy guy this is. Oh, I'm so silly. Oh, I was a big goofball, blah, blah, blah. And then we see him and all he does is cry and say he's sorry all the time. Like, But, so, right. And so it wasn't, that's what I was trying to say, is the cheating can't be the son of your relationship. Like, you used to have another son, and now you can't. If you want to get back to where you were, you have to start moving around something else.
Right. Tim's Spanish continues to impress me, though.
Very good Spanish. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm like super impressed. Definitely the best second language speaker we've seen on this show. And I'm talking about Americans. Obviously, our fiancés, they're very good at English as a second language. But
so, yeah, he just got tripped up on the idioms and stuff. Like, what's the, you know, because when he wanted to tell the dad, That's when he needed Melyza to translate for him. He wanted to tell the dad I cheated, but he was like, oh, I'm not you could see his brain working, be like, oh, I'm not sure I cheated is something that makes sense in this context. I can't just use the word cheat because I'm not sure if I translate to Spanish, right?
Yeah, because even the way she said it, she said he was with another.
Yeah, right. I'm sure there's a culturally common way to refer to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was like, because to us it would be like, oh, well, he was with another. It'd be like, another
what?
Yeah, if you just literally translated it. So that's where he was like, which is always the hardest part about learning languages, is learning the little like,
right.
Like, yeah, technically that is a way to say it, but nobody would ever say it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, yeah, you could be like, I cheated, like, at cards? I'm confused.
On a test?
Yeah.
All right. So that pretty much wraps up both episodes this week.
Yeah,
I think,
know.
Right?
Yeah, no Ari and Biniam, no Jenny and Simit.
Yep. All right. So, who was your student of the week?
I don't know.
It was tough this week.
We hate the repeats, though, but I like Kenny. That was a really sweet, really romantic proposal. And again, I reiterate, a bunch of big celebration with the family and all the people after Armando said yes.
Right. I know you're really into that. So my student of the week was Radu, Andrei's brother. I felt like he was trying to be reasonable. He kind of called out Andrei for, acting like an ass with the guests. And I felt like he wasn't placing any blame on anyone really. And I felt like he was being the mediator that Libby should have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So to bridge that, my class dunces Andrei.
Okay.
Because I know I felt like I was almost defending him because, Chuck and Charlie were not making names for themselves here. Libby was not making a name for herself. She was just like, I don't know. Just stop. Like, she wasn't even saying anything.
Right.
Right. She was doing a terrible job mediating because she was just going, the whole time. Mm-hmm. But come on, he was still a huge ass. Like, he was still way too drunk, right? He's still, yelling at everybody, taking on the whole table. His brother tried to mediate. He yelled at his brother, "Whoa, they've manipulated you. You're taking their side now." Like, and then at the end, he was like screaming at Libby, which, I mean, I'm not a fan of Libby for always kind of taking her family's side, but she doesn't deserve like to be talked to like that and screamed at like that and have put his hand in his face. I mean, it was the point where he was getting like scary. Like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that guy.
Sure. Yep, Andrei, definitely deserving. I mean, there's lots of people in that storyline that are deserving. Sure.
Yeah.
So my dunce is Brittany. I kind of feel like she's doing just enough to make Yazan think that she is in the process of converting. Like, she went to the mosque, she learned to do the washing. She actually, I kind of thought that I was like, what Brittany is this? She seems so stubborn about doing anything before, or evasive, if anything, right?
Right.
And if I was Yazan, I would think, things are changing. She's like really, getting into this, and there's a chance. But it's like she has no intention of converting. So it's just like, why are you lying to both of you?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because especially she does that, like, I believe in the spirits and I believe what you get out and you get in. It's like, that is not going to fly for them. They want you to be able to recite Quran verses and be able to do all the prayers in Arabic, and like, they want dogma. That's what they're looking for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I just, for not being real about the situation, Brittany.
Okay.
All right. What about your life lesson?
All right. So my life lesson is, if you're going to leave an argument and then double back, right, and come back to continue the conversation or argument, make sure you're not in the same mental headspace that you were in when you left. So there were 3 people this week that doubled back to an argument that I could think of off the top of my head. Andrei doubled back to an argument.
Yep.
Right? Jess doubled back into an argument.
Yep.
And Brittany doubled back. Brittany was actually the only reasonable one. Now, all the things that you said about Brittany, still true. But at least when she came back to the argument, she had calmed down. And she was ready to discuss this in a reasonable manner. The other two doubled back just to scream at people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, so my life lesson really is inspired by Jess, Colt, Larissa. It's like, while you never want to hold anyone to their past, meaning like Colt and Larissa, it certainly can give you some ideas about what you can expect in the future. So for Jess to kind of think that her situation with Colt is going to be any different, or it's going to end any different, is, you don't want to say like, oh, someone can never change. I agree with that. But then you also can't be that shocked or surprised when things kind of unfold the way that they have historically.
Yeah, and I think the big red flag about that is when you talk to them about what happened in their other relationship. Breakups are always two people's fault. And so if they are just like, well, she was crazy and she came after me and she was insane and she wanted to beat me up and blah, of course I had to break up with her, right? And Jess totally went along with,
Oh, yeah. She was like, Larissa is a crazy bitch. Sure.
Yeah. Larissa's a crazy bitch. Got it. Okay. But it's like, if you can't even point to one thing that you did wrong in this relationship, then that's telling me more about it than believing you for your word.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So next week is a little bit, we're changing it up a little bit because Mr. O has some family commitments. So we will be releasing, I think, Sunday, but we're only going to do Happily Ever After on Sunday. And then we will be releasing The Other Way later on in the week, we think by Wednesday.
Yep,
so
that sounds right.
That's the plan.
Yep,
yeah.
So 2 episodes next week. She'll both be shorter. We'll still get everything covered, though.
Yes, just different timelines.
Yep.
So. All right, so we will see you next week then.
All right. See everybody then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.